I'm Thomas Dillon. I'm the chairman of Creative Advantage Fund. Creative Advantage Fund is a venture capital fund for the creative industries in the West Midlands. It was set up in January 2000 as a company limited by shares. Ultimately, the owner of the fund is Birmingham City Council. But the fund was set up by the Regional Arts Board, West Midlands Arts, and Birmingham City Council, and its operation is governed by a contract between those two parties. So the City Council on one hand and the Arts Board on the other are the key stakeholders or principals of the fund. And West Midlands Arts now is part of the Arts Council of England. West Midlands Arts appoints the chairman of the fund, and they asked me to be the chairman, and I have been the chairman since 2000. The way in which the fund was administered was with a board of voluntary directors and with the management services provided by Birmingham City Council, for which the fund paid an annual fee of £65,000. That was the initial setup, and that lasted for a couple of years while we made our first round of investments. The philosophy behind the fund was to treat the support of the arts in a new way. Some art forms are capable of being commercial, others are not. For those that are capable of being commercial, the fund was a new form of support which got away from traditional ideas of patronage and treated the artist as an equal, as it were, a partner, commercial partner who would receive support and in whose enterprise the fund would take an equity stake. So it was not a grant-giving institution, it was an institution which was essentially buying a stake in the future of a creative business. The initial fund was £1.3 million, which was made up of money from the European Regional Development Fund, West Midlands Arts, the Arts Council itself, the City Council in Birmingham, Advantage West Midlands, which is the Regional Development Agency, and then with some small contributions from some private parties, including Carlton Television, 3i, the investment fund, and Evershed Solicitors. The initial plan was that we would invest larger sums and smaller sums. The larger sums would be around 10% of the value of the fund, which is 1.3 million, so £130,000. And then we'd invest smaller amounts, £20,000, something like that, in very small businesses. That was the initial plan. It didn't quite work out, as I'll explain in a moment. In the period from the beginning of 2000 till the end of 2001, we invested our funds. We invested in 13 companies, often in more than one tranche of investment. And of those 13, 9 of them had investments of over £100,000. The smallest investment was £30,000. And so the initial hope that we would have a fairly even balance between large investments and small investments didn't come to pass. This was largely because it was much harder to find small companies to invest in than larger ones. Though obviously in the world of venture capital, £130,000 even in 2000 was a very small amount of money. We received some top-up money of £290,000 in 2002 from Advantage West Midlands and West Midlands Arts. And then we managed our investments. We sat there and waited for them to succeed or fail. The objective of the fund was to be an evergreen fund. That's to say, it would not distribute its profits at any point. It would simply accumulate them and recycle them so as to make new investments in new businesses. And as a result of our investment, we levered in other support of an approximately equivalent amount, mainly through the Small Firms Loan Guarantee Scheme, which is a form of guaranteed lending from commercial banks. In the first round, we examined some 117 business plans, and that, as I have said, resulted in about 10% of those being investments. The key issue for the fund became apparent very early was that creative businesses are particularly difficult to invest in because of their lack of fundamental business disciplines and skills. The people behind the businesses may be quite brilliant, but they come to financiers with an insufficiently formulated proposition. They can't, without help, develop a persuasive business plan that would explain to an investor why, if an investment is made, a return will result. And this, of course, was key to the operation of the fund, because if we didn't get our money back, we would simply stop, and it would effectively be a grant-giving organisation, which is not the point. The way in which it works is that we have an online portal. The people who are interested in investment can read the website and then apply, expressing their interest through the website. There'll be an initial examination of the application. At that stage, it's really just an expression of interest, so that we can be sure that this really is something that's worth thinking about. No examination of the merits of the investment, but simply, are they really looking for equity investment? Do they know what equity investment is? Or are they just looking for a grant? And so are they not in the West Midlands? Of course, it's a regional instrument, so they had to be within our catchment area. And if that initial sorting was satisfactory, then we would appoint a consultant, one of a small team that we maintain, to examine the merits of the application, examine the business plan that the business has, work with the applicant to make it more likely to be successful with the board, and then ultimately to present that business plan with the applicant to the board. We would have a periodic board meeting at which the directors would receive short presentations from applicants, a quarter of an hour presentation, a quarter of an hour questions, a couple of minutes summing up, and then normally we'd be able to make a decision whether to invest or not. What we're really looking for is some confidence that the investment will produce a commercial return. That's to say that we will get our money back and more. Although the objective of the fund was to foster the creative industries, the method by which the fund was to do that was by being commercial. So to be a bit clear about that, a lot of applicants for investment from essentially public sources think that they must persuade the investor that there are a lot of collateral benefits, that it's going to do this for employment, it's going to do that for the arts, and so on and so forth. That's not the way the Creative Advantage Fund works. Our objective is simply to make a good investment. It was the objective of those who set us up that by making good investments, we would actually produce all those collateral benefits, which I firmly believe we do by making good commercial decisions. Obviously, only part of the creative sector can benefit from this approach. Poets probably don't need £130,000, and they probably wouldn't spend it on anything very sensible if you gave it to them. Other people, television for example, film, music, yes, and games and forms of art that we probably haven't even thought of yet. Those people who can use money and make a return on it for an investor, and those are the kind of people the Creative Advantage Fund wants to hear from.